For the first pick of the conference championship Sunday six-pack, I'm going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers plus 3.5 at BetMGM, the official odds provider of the Action Network podcast. And I like Tampa Bay for a couple of reasons. Number one, earlier in the year, and this was in week 6, so take it with a grain of salt, but Tampa Bay 38-10 over Green Bay, held them scoreless for the final 3 quarters of the game. Pick 6 Aaron Rodgers twice, which is pretty much unheard of in this day and age. His worst game of the season, and otherwise just spectacular campaign in which he's now thrown for 50 touchdowns with 5 picks. 2 of them came against the Bucs. From a talent perspective, Green Bay, so let me say it again. From a talent perspective, Tampa Bay can match up with Green Bay on both sides of the ball. So this is really going to come down to plays. And you're getting Tampa Bay not just with the hook. You're getting an extra half point there. So let me say it again. With Tampa Bay, you're getting not just a field goal. You're getting that extra half point and what I think should be a close game. You look at these teams, and obviously Green Bay, the number 1 offense in the league. But Tampa Bay, not too shabby. All around either. Number 6 in weighted defensive DVOA. Number 6 versus number 1 wide receivers. Number 1 versus the wide receiver 3s, 4s, 5s, those other wide receivers. And number 6 against running backs. So Tampa Bay, and also number 3 in pressure rate. So Tampa Bay's defense, from a talent perspective, can match up. We saw it in the first, in the first matchup. We do know that in a non-divisional rematch, since in this current playoff format, the team that won the first game, 55-39, 58.5% in the rematch. So that tends to favor the team. Obviously, you have to kind of take into account other factors. How much were they expected to win by? But just on a basic level, you do see some carryover here when a team matches up well the first time around. Aaron Rodgers, if you are going to slow him down at all, that you're going to have to be able to get some pressure, whether it's with blitzing, whether it's, but ideally, going back to dropping guys back and using that defensive line to get some pressure. 43.9% completion rate under pressure, 31st out of 42 qualifiers. But he can hit the big play, and that's what Tampa Bay has to worry about here. 86.7 passer rating under pressure was still 6th best. So they're not huge edges this week, but I do like Tampa Bay here. And then the other side of the ball, Green Bay's number 1 in weighted offense. Tampa Bay's number 2 in weighted offense. Green Bay's defense, number 14. That's the weakest unit in this game outside of the 2 special teams, which are both bottom 10. But Green Bay's defense is the weakest unit in this game. I do think Green Bay did have a home field advantage last week, so I am bumping them up a little bit in terms of their home field advantage. If not, I would have this game essentially about a coin flip, but I do have Green Bay as about a 2.5 point favorite here. So I still like getting on the other side of the key number. A couple of areas I think Tampa Bay could equalize. Red zone offense for Tampa Bay. They're number 5. Green Bay's number 28. These are 2 top 5 offenses in the red zone, but Tampa Bay's defense is 19th. Green Bay's 28th. So that could mean the difference between a 3 and a 7 at some point in favor of Tampa Bay. You also have 3rd and 4th down. Tampa Bay is the number 3 offense in DVOA. Green Bay's 23rd on defense. Both of these teams are top 3 offenses, but Tampa Bay's average on defense, 14th on 3rd and 4th down in DVOA. Green Bay's 23rd. So again, you just have some situational spots where if Tampa Bay is going to get an edge, potentially win this game even, they do have some spots some key spots to do it. And one of the other reasons I like Tampa Bay on offense is they do have enough weapons to match up, even if Jair Alexander shuts down one of their perimeter guys. Probably would be Antonio Brown. Looks like he's going to play. The knee injury, not too serious. He usually lines up on Alexander's side. Alexander has not been shadowing, but he's allowing under 5 yards a target, just 36 of 71 targets to be complete, so barely a 50% completion rate, just 2 touchdowns. So he's going to take away somebody, but Tampa Bay still has enough weapons beyond that. I think Chris Godwin can have a big game here. So not a huge edge here with Tampa Bay or any of these sides or totals, but out of the 4 potential sides and totals, Tampa Bay is the one that I show the biggest edge here. So rolling with the Bucs plus 3.5.
I don't hate it, but I'm convinced the Packers are going to win this game. But I don't know how I'm going to attack it yet. But here's some of the things that I've been diving into. So in the first matchup, Rodgers was awful. It was his worst game of the season by far. Again, so if you're not familiar with the Bucs defense, they run a lot of 3-4. They run a lot of zone on the back end, and they blitz their linebackers, and they hide it very well. And the Packers simply weren't ready for it. All of the linebacker blitzes were confusing Rodgers, and against the blitz, he was 6 of 17, 63 for 63 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Hold on 1 second. Rodgers against the blitz in that game was 6 of 17 for 63 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, was sacked 3 times for a 7.4 QBR. Interesting to note, he hasn't been sacked against the blitz since that game. But one of the things that when I was back watching it was the Packers are 32nd in the league in tempo in neutral situations. And they were going really slow, and Rodgers had no idea what was coming from a blitz perspective, and he couldn't figure out the coverages on the back end. They basically zoned him for most of the game, and he was really bad against the zone. I think he was 10 of 24 for 93 yards against the zone. What I fully expect them to do here, and they've been doing it a lot better since. First of all, their offensive line has been better since then. Their pass protection for the running backs has been better since then. They also saw a similar defense last week in the Rams who uses an odd front. And they did a tremendous job. But I fully expect the Packers to go faster here, mix up a lot of tempos. They're going to get to the line quickly. They're going to use hard counts. They're going to use hard counts to get free plays. They're going to use hard counts to see where the linebackers are coming from. And they're going to use more short passes because they drew up way too many deep passes and against the pressure that the Bucs were bringing, and they didn't know it was coming, and there was too many deep routes. So I think they're going to use the short passing game to set up the deep passing game because it's really interesting. The Packers all year have been using the running game to set up the passing game. They've been a top 5 rushing team all year, but they're going against a Bucs team that's been top 5. They're top 5 against the run in almost every metric. And last week, the Packers were able to run the ball, and credit to them because the Rams have been stopping the run. But the Rams don't really load the box. The Bucs do. So I don't necessarily think that the Packers are going to be able to get a lot on the ground against the Bucs. Vita Vea also might play. Not a huge factor for me. He'll probably be on a snap count if he does play. But the Bucs, regardless, are great against the run. But I think it'll be up to the Packers to make the adjustments here because I do expect the Bucs to play a lot of zone on the back end. Last week, they played man against the Saints, which you can do because Breeze can't throw it downfield. Michael Thomas was banged up. They don't have the weapons and Aaron Rodgers in the passing attack that the Packers have. I think the Bucs go back to what they've done all year, and they play a lot of zone on the back end. They're going to blitz, and you have to get pressure on Rodgers. And I think the Packers are going to be the ones to make the necessary adjustments on the other side of the ball. So I just think it was a game where everything went wrong for the Packers. They pretty much know what the Bucs are going to do, I think. Based on everything that I've looked into in this game, and the Packers are going to be ones to make the adjustments. I don't think all the things that the Bucs did that game are going to be effective this game. I think the Packers are going to go faster, and there's a lot of things that I think are going to work in favor. Look, home field, the weather. Tampa's a warm weather team. I know Brady won't really be impacted by it, but it's worth something. For what it's worth, Aaron Rodgers, 27-12-1 against the spread, 69%. Nice. As a home favorite under a touchdown. On the other side of the ball, so it's interesting. I don't know. The Bucs could come out and go man, but I think that they're going to stick with the zone. And for what it's worth, Aaron Rodgers, besides that game, from an EPA perspective, number 1 quarterback in the NFL against zone defenses this year. So I think it's going to be more of a short passing attack to set up the deep passing attack, more tempo, and they're going to be more prepared for what the Bucs are going to bring. On the other side of the ball, it's really interesting to me what the Packers are going to do defensively. So the Packers last week, generally speaking, the Packers run a lot of cover 3 and cover 4, zone-heavy team. But they will play man against quarterbacks who aren't mobile. And they did that last week. They played a lot more man against Goff, but you're playing against the Rams receivers and Goff. Are they going to do that this week? And is Jair Alexander going to shadow? He's basically stayed on the left side since he came back from injury. But if you go back to week 6 when these two teams played, he did shadow Mike Evans, held him to one catch for 10 yards, but Mike Evans was on one leg. I tend to think that they are going to play cover 4 the majority of the game, and I'll get into why. That's the cover 4 has been their most successful defense. And Brady this year has been horrid against cover 4. And you would think in the past, Brady, you don't zone Brady. You can't zone Brady. You have to press man. Those old Patriots teams, it's why the Ravens used to be successful against them and the Steelers would never be successful. But this specific offense is not good against cover 4 because you take away their deep routes, and these two teams throw deep more than any other team in the NFL on a percentage basis. And one of the ways you beat cover 4 is you check down to running backs, and Brady doesn't really have that here. Brady doesn't, he's going to throw it to Fournette. It's not like these Patriots teams where you can check down to the running backs whenever there's pressure and you're facing a zone. So I think that they're going to play a lot of cover 4. I do expect Alexander to follow Evans, because if he doesn't, what the Bucs can do is just put, even if Brown's not healthy, they'll just put Brown on him, take him away, and say, who cares? The Rams did this last week. They just put like a running back or a tight end where Jair Alexander was and took him out. And then they'll just say, all right, we're gonna attack Chandon Sullivan in the slot and Kevin King on the outside with Godwin and Evans. I don't think the Packers want that. So I think Packers go heavy cover 4. It's a different defense now. Rashawn Gary's playing out of his mind. They're getting a lot more pressure. That first time they played, they only got pressure on Brady 5 out of 27 passing plays. Last week, 50% of passing plays against the Rams, they got pressure. So it's a defense that I think has been trending up in the second half of the season. And look, Brady didn't have much success in that game. I mean, he threw for 170 yards. So I think a lot of cover 4. It's going to slow down that Bucs deep passing attack. And I think they're going to be able to get some pressure on Brady. From a prop perspective, by the way, A.J. Dillon, I would look for him. They've been trying to set up this deep pass to him for a while, for the last couple weeks. I think they're going to use two backs a lot more than usual. A.J. Dillon catching a ball or scoring a touchdown, and then Chris Godwin. I think they're going to put Chris Godwin in the slot almost the whole game. Usually I think he's like 60%, but I think they're just going to say we're putting him in there 80, 90%. Chandon Sullivan's been respectable, but if the Packers, they do play cover 4 where you can beat them, the cover 4 is with those option routes in the slot. I think Godwin is going to be fed the ball. Hopefully he doesn't have drop issues. That's from a prop perspective. But, so I ultimately think that the adjustments this time around that the Packers will make at home will be enough. And people forget that the Bucs passing defense had issues in the second half of the season. I mean, remember Taylor Heineke threw on them? Last week they went press man. They have talented corners against a quarterback who couldn't throw it downfield. It was a dream matchup. This Packers offense has been shredding everybody. It'll be interesting to see if they can get the play action going. If they can get any rushing attack going, the Bucs are vulnerable against play action. Rodgers, 22 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, led the NFL and EPA on play action. So it is a fascinating chess match. I just think that everything that I've looked at on how I think these two teams are going to play it defensively, and I could be way wrong. That's my read on it. I think ultimately it'll be a close game. I can't fault anyone for taking you included the Bucs with the hook. I think the Packers are going to win this game. I'm going to find a way to be involved in them when it's money line or live or something. I'll get to live when we talk a little bit about the total, which I think you're going to go into next. Do you have any sorry for the ramble. Do you have anything to add there from what I said?
I think no, it was great points. I do think that I do think this offense, I think people are underestimating what the Bucs can do against Green Bay, like offensively, because what you saw last week was and we'll see Ronald Jones' health, but he did get 13 carries last game. You started to see a two-headed running back monster emerge where Jones got 13 carries, Fournette got 17, but Green Bay, because of that cover 4 style defense, they will be vulnerable underneath. I think Godwin will have a big game, but Fournette's come on with 9 of 10 catches on 9 of 10 targets for 73 yards and a touchdown in the 2 playoff games. And I think they are kind of making a concerted effort to give Brady, that outlet there. They're also running Cameron Brate a lot more at tight end. Kind of Gronkowski's been blocking. They've been using some 2 tight end sets. So I do think they'll find some ways to attack this team. And I wonder if, I probably would shadow Evans with Jair, but I do wonder if, especially if Brown, they said it's nothing serious, or he's, practices and, he's either removed from the injury report or it's pretty presumed that he's, going to be close to full health. I wonder if, from a coaching perspective, they're looking at it and saying, yeah, this is still Antonio Brown. Like, there's a lot of coaches in this league that would still look at Antonio Brown as a better receiver than Mike Evans. I'm not saying Mike Pettin does or doesn't, but I don't know for sure that, I wouldn't say with a high confidence that Alexander shadows just because he simply hasn't done it, since the first half of the season. So I'm actually expecting him to stay, especially if they do play cover 4, because you're still playing zone. You could move him around and line up on the side that Evans lines up on, but that's no saying they're not going to, run routes to still get him off of him. So I actually expect Alexander to be a little more stationary. I do expect Fournette to be heavily involved, but also I think Tampa Bay, because they have those threatening pass game weapons that will force Green Bay. And what does Mike Pettin do? He plays that cover 4. He plays with a lot of defensive backs on the field. That's that's essentially their base defense. That's why the Packers really for the last couple of years have been getting shredded in the run game. Tampa Bay has enough weapons to make you respect their pass game. Even if Brady, could struggle a little bit, maybe it's not the best coverage matchup. Just their weapons with Brown and Evans and Godwin and Gronk and Bray and Fournette now coming in the pass game. You're going to respect their outside weapons. You're going to respect their pass catchers. I think you're going to see more defensive backs on the field. Tampa Bay did show a willingness last week, even against a very good Saints run defense, like you, and you called this, to run the ball more. And I think that really helps. So I do think Tampa Bay, again, against this weakest, the weakest unit in the game is Green Bay. I think that's really where the edge comes. At the end of the day, we're not expecting Aaron Rodgers to get slowed down. We're just trying to have the other team play, keep it to where it's a coin flip game and give them a chance to win at the end, or at least stay within a field goal. I think Tampa can do that because of their offense in this one, not because of their defense. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I mean, unless you got anything to say, I'll go into the total.
Yeah, no, I try to spend all day trying to figure out if if Alexander is going to shadow, because if Antonio Brown is fully healthy and they play a lot of cover 4, he probably doesn't. But Brown didn't practice today because King is bigger, right? So then you probably don't really want him on Antonio Brown.
Don't. He's been the worst corner.
But if Antonio Brown isn't healthy, you also either don't want whoever, him out there just as a decoy, or taking Alexander out of the game for no reason. So it's something that I'm going to be watching. I think it's a fascinating aspect.
Yeah, and that's why I do like Tampa. Again, I think Tampa Bay covers this game, has a chance to win this game because of their offense in this spot, because it's foolish to say you're going to, at this point, after watching what he did to the Rams, you're not slowing Aaron Rodgers down. But, I'll put it this way. The Packers, where they put up 500 plus yards of offense on the Rams, they scored 32 points. The Bucs, against a very good defense in New Orleans. Now, granted, they got some turnovers, but they scored 30 points. They're capable of scoring with the Packers. And that's what they're going to have to do in this game. And I think that's why having the weapons helps. That's why having depth at receiver. I mean, I think Brown is going to be healthy. They said it's not serious, but Tyler Johnson, more talented than most number 4s, and Scotty Miller, whoever you want to call their number 4. They like Johnson a lot, but both of those guys are more talented than your pretty much every other 4 or 5 in the league. So Tampa has options, and I think it was a little bit of a blessing in disguise to see Aaron Rodgers shred that Rams defense, because that is essentially the scheme that I thought Tampa would play as well. So I think now, Tampa having success in that first matchup, but also seeing what they did to the Rams, I think there will be a little more of an edge, or there won't be as much of an edge for Green Bay this time around. 1 week to prepare instead of 2. So I just think I just think this number is a little bit forgiving here, to where I think this is a field goal game at least half the time. So Not it's conference championships. The market's efficient,